Feeling the heat?
Welcome back, and what a surprise! Game one, I'll tell you what. We came in hot on this broadcast, but a team that came in even hotter, Mammoth. Good lord, Jake, were we expecting this? What are AV thinking?
I was expecting it. As soon as I saw the Avant Gaming roster changes, I thought this is a team that is having a 0-3 Super Week and will no longer beat anyone in the OPL. They have a support player playing top lane in a meta where top lane is incredibly important. I actually think Appy played pretty well, to be honest. But then, I mean, you've obviously swapped up your bottom lane. Like, the only stability they had was Lisa and Chaz. They looked good throughout the mid game, but I just don't know how you can change your team 3 roles, 60% of a team, and expect to have good results in the final week of the OPL. I think, Mammoth, despite being the bottom of the table, are still a good team, and they certainly showed that by punishing Avant.
Absolutely. Mammoth also filled with potentially the nicest people in the OPL. That's a big,
Absolutely.
That's a big shout out to Mammoth and a big smackdown to the other 7 teams. Rusty, the Japanese screen was just too OP. We can't handle it anymore. That we are still giving it back. Something else that comes at you fast, patches for League of Legends. I believe this is the 10.7, the 7th patch this year. I mean, there is a lot of... We can hear you. What are you talking about?
We can hear you fine.
Yeah.
All
Rusty
right,
died.
see you,
Rusty's
stream.
gone. Muted. He's dead. Rusty... maybe they're just talking about your camera. We can't hear Rusty. They're not talking about your camera. Okay, cool. So I'll just tell you that Rusty said life is coming at you fast. Rusty said life is coming at you fast. And he's just attacking it as it comes. He's a true blue fighter. And he also said that I'm his favorite member of the OPL broadcast. Hello, you're a very nudie little boy, and this is you say hi to everybody. You're on camera, buddy. Okay, what have you got for me? Thank you very much. A strawberry for me? Oh, thanks, Bubba. And that one too? And a pizza? Oh, you take the strawberry. You give that to Elkie, okay? I'll have the pizza. Okay, I love you.
This is so much time to solve tech issues. So
okay,
Thank you
cool.
so much.
So that's my son. Enjoy that. He's currently enjoying all the fake food and gives me pizzas to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it's very cute. Where were we before the naked child walked into the room? That's right, patches.
Patches.
10.7. I think we've got 7 patches this year already. And the newest one obviously brings big changes to fiddlesticks. Jake, how are we feeling about the fiddle nowadays?
So I didn't like Fiddle as a champion. I thought thematically he was pretty boring, and he was also just a stat check, I felt. Nowadays, I like Fiddle a lot more. I think that he has got a lot of stuff in his kit now. He does a 2-minute 45-second clear if you're really good at being able to utilize his early game to be at Scuttle Crab pretty much 45 seconds early, which no jungler can do that. So I think I'm more of a fan of kind of the new Fiddle than the old Fiddle. I think that we won't see him in pro play, though. Will we see him in pro play? Maybe we will. I think that it's very hard to have an AoE team-fighting jungler in pro play that isn't a tank.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we won't see him in pro play. I'm unsure, Nick. I think he's cool. I've played him in solo queue. I enjoy him. But I don't think we'll see him in pro play.
Rusty?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Am I okay?
You're good.
Okay,
I don't know,
so
could
first
the
of all,
stream
you want to
hear
know
you?
what I did to be able to... The stream can hear me now. What I did is I turned back on my video. The stream could hear me again. So we're back. I agree with what Jake said. I think that thematically the new Fiddlesticks is fantastic. I'm a big fan of it. But I think the problem is the usefulness of his W and his E. They're almost too thematic. Now, I actually think that he has impact only when jungling. I'm lagging. You know what? I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna stop. You guys just talk.
I heard most of what he said. He said thematically his W and E are cool abilities, but in reality their practicality when the game kind of sucks. I agree with that. His W is only useful for clearing the jungle, and yet you have to max it so you clear the jungle quickly. His E is quite good because it is a silence that fears out of brushes, but it's not as good as the old E. New Q is much better. New R is much better. But overall, I think par for course, fun champion. If you're a Fiddlesticks main, you're going to climb because he's really hard to deal with in solo queue. And if it comes out in pro play, he's going to die 10 times before level 6.
Absolutely. But the only thing I really care about is the thematicness, because I love the look, I love the trailers, I love the reworked ability from a theme perspective. I mean, this is one of those things that I will take just for fun when we play ARAMs in MPL, because it's just it's nice to see them double down on the theme of that champ. Is there anything else significant in the patch, Jake, for you in 10.7?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Akali is now pretty good because she was already quite good, and they reverted the changes to a perfect execution, which is her ultimate. I think we'll see a lot more of Akali ever since they changed kind of how the mastery works, where if you kill people, you get more energy. They smoothed out a lot of her power in her kit as well. They made her do much more damage whilst taking away some of her trading potential. So now her ult being back is very, very good for her. Galio got a slight buff. Why is that important? Because if people start picking Galio, Nico is actually incredibly strong into that champion. So I think that he will see some play, and then we'll see more Nico due to that fact. And then Ivan got buffed a lot. And now, why is Ivan important? We're seeing Caitlyn come back to the meta. We're seeing mage supports play, and we're seeing tank supports, tank junglers starting to rear their head a little bit. So if you're willing to blind pick Sejuani at the moment, which I think we've seen 2 teams do so far in the OPL and a couple of teams international, Ivan becomes a legitimate pick if you can play mage supports and you can play Caitlyn, because this guy does just warp the game state. It's going to mean that fast push comps become a little bit more relevant. Daisy being out earlier and more often and a little bit more damage from his E is only good things for Ivan. E is the ability you max. Obviously, Daisy is your main dueling tool once you hit level 6. So I think that they're all the things that I was looking at in it. Ivan is probably the most annoying change. I never want that champion to be relevant at all. I think that he sucks for game state. But it seems that he could be back.
Okay, well, there you go. Rusty. Is Rusty back? Rusty's not back. If Rusty was here right now, he'd probably agree with most of what Spawn was saying. But he loves Ivan, so obviously he would double down on that. And then he'd probably say something really supportive of, like us and our work. And then he would do that thing where he laughs, but you actually know that inside he's crying, because he's one of those people who always puts on a really brave face. And I'm hearing him in my ear right now, and he's just saying that's true. And I could tell he's got a big smile on his face. And the bigger the smile, the bigger the tears on the inside. So it's like an anime character where they get that giant tear next to their face. And I don't really know what that signifies in anime, whether or not they're just shocked or scared or crying. But that's Rusty has an enormous tear that is soaking through that Japanese room divider right now, rendering it basically completely useless. What do you guys think of 10.7? Let us know in the chat, as you have been. Something else, Jake, I wanted to mention that earlier in the week, I mean, obviously we know that basically all traditional live sport is cancelled for the time being. And I play quite a bit of fantasy sports. Now, the app that I use to play fantasy sports sent out a tweet earlier in the week saying that given that there's no sports, they're going to introduce League of Legends Fantasy. And I feel like this is something we 100% need to jump on.
Yes. I'm a huge fan of fantasy sport as well. When I was a manager at McDonald's, I had a fantasy netball team, and I would make constant changes to my fantasy lineup there. So I am all about fantasy sport, so bring it on. I'm all for it.
Can I ask why you picked netball?
Because they used to do netball reruns between midnight and 4 a.m. And I used to work the overnight shift. And What I would do is I would just watch it the whole time. And people would do their job. And then they would say, hey, you going to give us a hand, Mr. Manager? And I would say, no, my netball teams are playing. And then I would watch netball.
That is fantastic. I would love to play some fantasy League of Legends. I think that is the business. And I did check; it was slightly before April Fools. So unless they're based in a country that doesn't have a time zone that we know about, it it got in before April Fool's about 4 hours. So I think it's all factual information. Enough that they retweeted me when I was excited about it. So I feel like that's them endorsing their own product. So maybe in Split 2, we can get onto some fantasy League of Legends. I feel like that is the business that we need in our life right now. We also need Rusty in our life right now, but he's gone. And in all the hullabaloo, will the production team even be able to do this? I forgot to say that this is a segment called The Patch Notebook, and we had an opening title sequence made for it. And Ken, our editor, called me up in the week. It was like, I need you to record these voice lines for me. I don't know what they're for, but I feel like I should throw to this opening title sequence. But instead I need to throw to Champ Select. So we'll see you in the next break. See you after Game 2, Gravitas versus Legacy.
Feeling the heat? Grab a pineapple or pineberry frozen Fanta mix at Macca's. With 36 flavours, it's the largest range in Australia. Grab one for only $1. A little goes a long way at Macca's.
Let's crack on with it. It is Legacy taking on Gravitas. There is no Rusty, unfortunately. We're trying to figure out where he's gone. He's lagged out. Maybe the Wombat has taken him down. But regardless, it's going to be myself jumping in here to bring you through the action of the second game of week number 10. Obviously, big implications for both of these teams. Legacy already secured their support going into the playoffs in either 1, 2, and 3, but looking to try and get the most desirable seeding spot. Gravitas, off the back of a lot of momentum, especially with Pabu now joining the ranks, will be looking to try and get themselves into that 5th and final spot. So it's going to be interesting to see where things exactly go. Now, date your mind back a little bit to when both these teams took to the Rift on week number 6. Gravitas were actually able to get that win. Now, what were some of the crucial picks that got them that victory? The Akali for Seaman in particular, right? The way he was able to go 12-3, the ability for him and Praylist, as well as Beats on the Renekton and Echo respectively, to basically do the damage and really bring it to Legacy, and welcoming Tally back into the fold of things in in a defeat against him. Now, it's going to be K-pop. We're not going to have Tragedy this time, but regardless, the Yuumi has been banned away. So pre-game aside, let's jump into what we've got on the board so far. It's going to be a first pick here for Pabu. You'd imagine so, at least with the set being locked in. There is the Kalista obviously as an option as well, so we might see a little bit of flexibility there, but with the Kalista and a Taric there, you'd imagine that will be their bot lane for Puma and K-pop. The response here for Legacy is they have gone for an incredibly strong solo lane. They've got the best AD carry with the Aphelios. They're going to pair that with Isles now playing the Bard, and Babip will stick to that traditional tank, tanking jungler, right? So definitely going to have a lot of engagement tools, definitely going to have a lot of champions that can cater to the ideas of, a Knight's Vow, Zeke's Convergence, the ability to make sure that if Raze does damage, he can live. We've seen so many times when Raze has been able to jump into a Baron pit, jump into a Dragon team fight, and just 1v5, just take the game on his own. Syndra obviously will get him some strong initiation, some strong action to get these members low. And we are going to see, as a result of Akali getting banned in the second rotation, that Gravitas are going to respond and stick to some comfort picks that have worked for them in the past. They are going to get Praylist on that Echo, and now we're going to see a glimpse at potentially a second assassin. It's not going to be the Zeds. Seaman's going to respond with the Kassadin, the king of mobility, the king of shutdown, and especially against AP carries, really going to give Tally a hard run for his money. Let's see exactly where Legacy go for their 5th and final pick. What is Tapoon going to be playing into this composition? They've obviously got a lot of mobility, a lot of damage. He is going to stick with the Gnar. Gnar obviously going to be incredibly strong in terms of the ability to keep Set at bay, at distance, especially with Hyper coming online. and then when he goes into Mega Form, they've got some very strong initiation to counteract the fact that Gravitas want to go in. Set wants to slam dunk. Echo wants to jump in. If they can try and cancel a lot of these guys before they can get to disengage, I'm talking Tarek with the Cosmic Radiance, Echo before we can recall back on out. The Gnar could be a crucial factor here, and if they do get locked in place, look how much CC they have to combine that with. Obviously, Bard can knock them against the wall and get two-man stuns. Trundle can obviously lock them down with the pillar as well. And it, once again, sort of cates this idea that Legacy have really formulated from the start to the finish, that they want to have a lot of resources towards their mid laner, but particularly towards Raze. So I'm very curious to see how this composition does come online, if Gravitas will be ideally looking to try and find that mid and jungle connection like they did last time. Really brought those guys online. And with the Echo, obviously, Praelis very, very comfortable on that. But we do know Kassadin isn't the strongest, especially in the early game. He really, really wants to get to level 6 as quickly as possible. And we know what it's like when it goes into the 1-3-1 rotations, when he can split and hit that all-important level 16, making it very quick and easy to access that map. So let me know in the chat. I have got Twitch chat open right now. Let me know which team draft you prefer, who you feel has the edge in this one. Bear in mind right now that Legacy as well as Chiefs are tied for first and second as it stands, both sitting at a score of 15 and 3, whereas Gravitas are tied with Avant and Pentanet. So they are all playing for this 5th and final spot. Order are guaranteed to get themselves into the playoffs. We just don't know where they're going to go, 4th and 5th. I am seeing a few people in chat right now mention that they feel that Gravitas have the slight edge. Could be quite interesting to see, because I feel like you've got the edge in terms of draft, but then you've got the mechanical prowess that Legacy have displayed and shown again. And Tally, absolute stand-up performer. He really has to showcase what he's done so many different times, going from, you know, playing as a AD carry, now to going top lane with Order, and now flipping the script completely and saying, look, I will play mages in the mid lane. The diversity, the experience that this guy brings to the table is out of this world. But enough talking aside, let's crack on with the game, guys. Gravitas taking on Legacy. It is our second game of week number 10. It is a super week. 6 best of ones today, 6 again tomorrow. And then we'll know exactly where our teams are, the 5 qualifying teams to make it into playoffs. And that's when we get into the business end of the league. That's when we have, well, the chance really to make your name on an international stage. Obviously, the MSI will be postponed a little bit given the current circumstances in the world. But this is what these teams are playing for, right? You know, you come from a smaller region, one of the minor regions. If you're wanting to make a career out of this, you really do need to make it to the international stage and prove to the biggest players on the world what you can achieve. Let's see exactly how these teams decide to go and play the level 1. It's looking like right now that Legacy will just fan themselves out.
Yeah.
Not going to fall victim to any shenanigans that Gravitas might throw their way.
Hey, Skimmy,
I'm
how
not
you
seeing
doing,
anything
mate?
in terms of any creative jungle paths just yet. Looks like both will start top side and path towards bottom. Puma obviously incredibly strong. Be quite curious to see how this Callista can work in his favor. But the Trundle, such a strong counter towards it, just locking members in place. Let's jump into this one. I believe we now got Spawn on standby. So, Spawn, take it away, mate. What do you think of that draft? Who do you think got the better end of that one?
I think that right now Legacy's comp needs to be able to win early. If I'm looking at Legacy's composition, you go. If I'm looking at Legacy's composition, Skimmy, I'm thinking, you know what? If this game goes anywhere near the late game, like the last one did, that they're going to be in trouble. Callista Tarek so strong in the latter stages of the game, and then you have a look at something like a Kassadin, we saw it last night in the LCK, at level 16, can genuinely 1v5 a game. So Legacy, the team that we normally expect to take games late, need to really be able to bust this one open in the laning phase, I feel.
Very curious to see if that is the case, if that is what we're going to get on this game right now. I highlighted during the draft about how much of a necessity it is for, you know, Praelis to work his dynamic between himself and Seaman again to really get those guys online. We talked about it when that happened in week 6, and it was such a big factor. I guess the concern is, you know, you got a double AP setup. Makes it a little bit easier here for Syndra to itemize to make sure that she doesn't fall victim to too many gank attempts and can, you know, easily transition into level 6 to find kills of her own.
Yeah, I agree, but what they've kind of done in that regards is instead of saying, you know what, we need to be able to gank this, we need to get it rolling in the early games, like, you can rush the Merc Treads if you want. You know, you can itemize defensively, maybe a second item, Banshee Veil if you are Tally. But we're going to use that time instead of, you know, getting a big early lead, of just coming through the early game in a neutral standpoint. That's what Cashlin really wants. He just wants to be able to get levels and farm. That's why he's taking such a negative keystone. In the fleet footwork, you can see already great job from Babip. He steals away 2 camps as well and puts Prayless on the back foot. And I think this is what we're going to see more of. You know, the avoidance, the farm, scale, and try and get towards the latter stage of the game. And Legacy are definitely the team that want this game to, you know, devolve into maybe a sole point early, or a couple of Rift Heralds being picked up and the map being wide open. I think that's why the Bard's going to be certainly very important, being able to get this Trundle around the map. And we might even see our first gank, Skimmy, as looks like Trundle potentially wants to get busy down in this bottom lane.
Definitely looks to be the case as the Dazzle goes out. It's going to lock members in place, but here comes Babbitt waiting for that pillar to come on down. It's going to lock K-Pop in place, but Raze is already disengaged, taking so much damage from the minion wave. One auto would have spelled certain disaster, especially coupled with an extra attack from a support.
Yeah, it certainly could have. However, that is still a good gank, right? You burn both summoner spells out of the turret. We've mentioned that this is certainly a scaling lane and that you want to be able to get Raze an advantage. Well, now the wave's pushing out. You don't necessarily know whether this Trundle recalled or whether he's stuck around. So certainly have to play it a little bit more safe. Meanwhile, in the top lane, I'm certainly surprised how this lane is going, because I would expect Na to probably win the lane matchup versus Set, but Pabu, on his return to the OPL last week, showed that he certainly hasn't missed a step and seems to be doing a very good job right now of being able to control top lane, one of the best performing top laners.
Absolutely. You know, we were highlighting during the draft that potentially with this pick, you know, Na with the hyper online be very nimble to keep the set away. We've seen so many different responses to trying to shut down the set. We've had Singed come out, we've had Cassiopeia in the top lane, we've had many different variations of what they feel like is the best, you know, response to it. And this was a first pick set, bear in mind. So Topoon, known for his consistency, known for his strength in recent weeks, definitely showcasing that he is not a Soraka one-trick or a second support to Babip. He should still be a very relevant factor in this game.
Oh, Tally goes. Sorry, Pabu goes for it, though.
He actually just jumps in there. He's going to force a flash away from the Haymaker, and we're not going to see a First Blood take place just yet.
And I'm really curious that he's recalling right now, because if he gets one more creep, he can actually kill him outright underneath this turret. He can force Topoon to recall. And I was going to say he shouldn't touch that creep wave, Skimmy, because if you push that creep wave, you're going to allow just an easy teleport back into kind of, you know, being able to pick up all the creeps. But if you let that one crash, if you let that one build, it's going to push back into you, probably save your teleport. See whether he's able to do that now. Topoon will teleport back to the top lane. That means bottom side Dragon probably should be off. And this game, dead even. And probably not where Legacy wants it to be so far.
No, I mean, you talk about the scaling nature that Gravitas have, especially with the bottom section of their composition. You're talking Kassadin, Kalista, and the Taric. It's interesting to see that, you know, they sort of bring this idea, this strategy to Legacy and say, we've known in recent weeks you've liked to play a little bit slower, a little bit more methodically, as opposed to what Chiefs have done. And, you know, we want to match you in that regard and say, look, you know, we don't want this to be a 50-50 coin toss. If you don't really want to force anything during the laning phase and are going to not find lane dominance, then we're quite happy to go for those fights later on.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say, you know, the transformation of Legacy, because I really do feel like when M&S left, and he was the best early game mid laner in the league, by far, and they replaced him with someone like Tally, that you should have been able to read this play, right? Because when you look at the Legacy lineup, they've got Raze and Tally, two of the best late game players ever in the OPL now on the same lineup. It would be so easy for a coach to just be saying to your players, you know what, we're going to pick scaling, we're going to pick for team fights, give resources to Tally, give resources to Raze, and just be able to take over the game when you're probably going to be unmatched within the OPL. However, I do like drafts like this. Jensen definitely not resting on those laurels, making sure that his team has got multiple styles of being able to play. They do get themselves the first Dragon, maybe first kill.
Well, they're going to find themselves the first blood as well. Exhaust has to be used to initiate that one, but Babbitt finds success with a repeat gank in the bottom lane, and this is what you really need to do, especially now that that first blood is found on Raze.
Yeah, and I'm really surprised that he recalled off that, because I think they could have threatened to dive. They've got very good vision of bottom side jungle. They know that Prayless isn't down here. He actually was looking for a cross map. And at the same time, Raze has now ticked over to level 6. So this should be difficult for Puma to be able to collect all the farm. Raze, in fact, is probably going to be able to get himself 2 turret plates just through the power of Aphelios' kit. So Legacy, after a quiet, you know, first 5-6 minutes, has now exploded onto Summoner's Rift and picked up a 1,200 gold lead.
Absolutely, and a lot of that will be in this man's pocket right now, and this is really what you want. You know, we talk about how strong Aphelios is once he's got a few crucial items online, with the mechanics to go to boot as well. Certainly does spell disaster, and you talked about before Legacy maybe backing away from that dragon with Tapoon's TP going down. Well, they find that as well, so Babip definitely finding a good influence on this map and really getting these guys online in the first 10.
Yeah, and I think that's because Pabu decided to match his teleport, right? He definitely could have left that wave exactly where it was. It would have pushed into him. He would have got Tapoon's teleport. He would have been able to preserve his own, but he wanted to continue to dominate this lane. And you can see that now the tabbies have been picked up, it's actually just not a hard winning lane for the set anymore. Maybe we expected it to win slightly harder early, but as of right now, the Nara in a terrific position. Lane swap going to come out as well. Legacy going to start up the Rift Herald at 9 minutes into the game. And now it seems like the shoe is on the other foot. How do Gravitas stop this bleeding and ensure they don't fall out of this game before the level 16?
We'll have to see exactly how Praelis decides to play this one. Has got the Dark Harvest, so we'll be looking to try and find some ganks or a lot of damage as this game progresses on. But he has been quite quiet so far, has been sticking to the jungle, evens the CS that Babip has on the Rift himself, but showing himself with a cut-off in mid to make sure that Tally can't join his team as they look to try and take down this Rift Herald. It's down to about 35%. Raze, with that lane swap you talked about before, will be able to join in. And they have so much damage, so many members in crucial spots with level 6s online especially. That's going to be the second major objective here, picked up by Legacy.
And that's really well done. You can see what Legacy did is they had top lane priority, had pushed that wave all the way into the turret. And whilst they had lost control of the mid lane wave, Tally clears it out much quicker than what Puma does. Obviously, Tally with the control mage going to be able to AoE that one down, whereas Puma very much a single target threat at this stage of the game, and he might also be in threat himself. We'll be able to dodge out on that Cosmic Binding. So, as of right now, Legacy, 1,500 gold the lead. Sure, that's nice, but more impressively, now pressuring this top lane turret with a Rift Herald and mid lane pressure, this could really be a 3,000-4,000 gold lead very, very quickly.
Absolutely, and it's the money on the members that we wanted to see on 2-star carries that this roster has to mention, Tally and Raze. Now, this turret plate will fall down again, more money into that pocket before the 14-minute mark. You can see a rotation takes place as Echo responds, the magical journey out, making it very hard to try and catch on to these members. And once again, Praelis has denied any real opportunity to try and find some way to get his lanes online himself.
Yeah, but how do you ever gank this? And now they just see him recall as well, so full awareness of where the jungler of Gravitas has been, and definitely aware that no topside camps now up and available. So, you know what? The duo probably can just sit themselves back up there and continue to push in on the Gravitas bottom lane. Meanwhile, CS leads starting to grow in the middle lane as well. It is going to be Roa picked up, so Suman towards his first major completed item. 10 minutes left to stack on that one. But overall, I would say this has been a really nice early game from the Legacy lineup. 2,000 gold, they've got themselves the only dragon. They're set up to pressure even more of the map. And just the ability to weather the storm early, I think. Make sure that this Echo doesn't get online like you were mentioning. And now control exactly what the Gravitas lineup wants to do.
And that's what they're finding. Out goes the pillar. He's going to force Simin to use his ultimate to disengage out there. So rather low on mana right now, as he's going to be forced to miss a lot of the CS as well. Just the threat of these members coming in with the orbs, the CS to follow. Praelis is now going to find his first initiation with a gank attempt in mid lane. They're going to go into one target and one target only. They want to take out the Tallyman. He is gone on down. Praelis with a clutch recall back. He was in a lethal range himself, but it will be fantastic to see him in to equalize the deficit.
Yeah, that was really well played from Praelis. He actually predicted exactly where Tally was going to flash to. Such a great stun set up there by the Echo. Ensures that the scaling mid laner is finally on the board. It's not helping out in the top lane. It's not helping out in the bottom lane. But at least they're able to hit back somewhere, although Raze flashes.
Hang on a minute. They look for topside right now. The Dazzle doesn't connect with Raze, but it definitely does onto Isles. They're going to lock him in place to make sure he takes 0 to no damage right now. Cosmic Radiant's going to find little to no value, as Puma will find a kill, but it will be a trade on support to support. Babip gets in on the action as Tally responds with aggression on his mid lane counterparts. Legacy turn up to the top side and find revenge.
Yeah, really nicely played from Legacy there, because they use the Bard ultimate to actually keep Raze alive, and then double TPs will come in. They only win the trade by 1 kill, but now that the turret goes down, all that gold going over to Topoon, turret plate also following in a minute. Certainly the kind of play they were looking for. We said that 3,000 gold, probably par for course after you pick yourself up that first Rift Herald. Well, they're able to get that. Now they can reposition to the bottom. We actually take a look at this one. It was a really nice Cosmic Radiance coming across. Human able to get in there as well, but just saving enough time where there is going to be a 1-for-1 trade. Human now a little bit caught out of position. Kralis late to the rotate on that one, Skimmy. And all in all, a very nice play for Legacy.
Very nice play, which will allow them to break open the bank, make it a 3k lead in their favor, as they are now going to come back from a fresh shop and look to get themselves the second Drake on the map. Going to be an interesting game, because after this we're going to have either an Ocean or an Infernal Rift, which really caters to what both of these teams really want to do.
Yeah, I feel like Gravitas would be praying for that Infernal Rift, right? They're hoping they get control of this game within the next 5 to 6 minutes anyway. If it's Infernal and they get to stack up 4 of those dragons by winning 1 team fight, that is certainly very beneficial for the blue side team. In saying that, I'm sure Legacy will not be unhappy with it. Legacy were really not phased, whether it was Infernal or Ocean, they would have taken either. But I certainly agree with you. Best dragons available for League of Legends right now, and we'll see whether a team can get stacking that up.
Well, the lane rotation will take place as Legacy find themselves with the second dragon of the game. Kralis once again looking to come and show face in mid lane, keep Tally on his toes. He does have the blue buff. Will be very easy to get himself CSing underneath this tower, utilizing those spells as you can see right there. And Kralis letting his presence be known. But once again, it is this bot lane. Ray's really been given so much gold from taking down essentially 3 turrets. And really breaking open this gold lead.
When you have a look at how these lanes were set up, I feel like Tally should have been under way more threat on that creep wave. As soon as you land the Rend, I feel like Puma should have been picking up K-pop and throwing his support at the Syndra. Syndra had no flash available. There was 3 members very clearly visible on Summoner's Rift. Inara in the top lane without teleport, Bard, as well as the Ophelia sieging bottom side. I feel like that could have certainly been a kill for the duo lane of Gravitas. And this is just Legacy kind of gambling on the fact that Gravitas aren't going to play aggressively enough. You know, they're not going to have the courage to throw those 55, 45 plays out there and try and make it work. And instead, they're just starting to bleed objectives. Now, nearly 4,000 gold down at only 15 minutes into the game is a very significant gold lead. And with long side lanes, the split push threat of the Gnar starts to become very real.
And you speak about the Gnar, and he's obviously got the Black Cleaver online now, so if the tabbies weren't enough, it's definitely a lot of CDR and the damage to shred to allow these crucial members to really get the job done. It'll be interesting to see Ahara during the draft that Babbitt may be going for a more support-oriented Trundle with the Knight's Vow and the Zeeks to make sure that, you know, Raze does not fall on down. Squish takes place here, and it is going to respond with K-pop forced to burn the Cosmic Radiance. It's going to be utilized by Puma, chucking him out with the Boomerang as well. 2 crucial ultimates burnt for free. Now they're going to look to try and capitalize on Puma, who was stuck in place there with the Bard ultimate, but they'll take that 2 for 1, and they re-establish themselves in mid.
Yeah, and that's a really bad play from K-pop there. He was caught out in no man's land. No way they're going to be able to contest that without 5 members on the mid lane wave. Tries to cheat, gets stuck by the portal. There's a very nice little pillar there as well, and you can see that all in all, Legacy do not seem all that phased right now, Skimmy. They seem happy to just trade ultimates, dance around Summoner's Rift. They know they've got themselves the lead. You know, with the next dragon coming up in 2 minutes with control of Rift Herald, that last outer turret's going to go down. And whilst the scaling's still always going to be there, it is that ticking time bomb. I always say that you need gold for scaling to work, and unfortunately, Gravitas are just getting much less gold.
They are lacking it significantly right now. A quick stock check shows you that, with the CS being major in the mid lane for the most part, but definitely found in the bottom lane as well. And just the amount of, you know, kill presence that Babbitt has found, 3 assists to 1. He's been really allowed to sort of dictate the terms in which they find these fights and find situations in which Gravitas get caught on out. And now they're getting a little bit angsty with their initiations, chasing people around the map, but it comes back to that Bard again, you know, very hard to try and gank him.
Yeah, absolutely. However, I feel like that is a good little look there, just seeing whether Legacy is going to be willing to fight you. Bottom lane, they're not losing all that much CS. In fact, I think it's pushing back towards them. You can see Pabu sets up a mini freeze there as well. force Human to be able to come and eat. And this is going to be a very scary Cassidy. He's going double scaling items in the Rod of Ages in the tier of the Goddess. So as soon as he has got those items online, going to have access to the infinite mana resources that come across from Presence of Mind. And should be able to Rift Hop all over Summoner's Rift. As I said, it's just about whether they can hold on. 5,000 gold, probably on the extreme end of what is recoverable in modern day League of Legends. 3 dragons, also probably extreme end of what is recoverable. I would be saying we have to sack this next one. We can't go for it. There's no way we can fight. But in 6 minutes, we have to be ready to throw everything we have at them.
Well, they've thrown something right now in the bottom lane. They're looking to try and catch out Pabu, who sidesteps the stun. The orbs will not connect, but the second Rift Herald will be spawned. And the second bottom lane turret will fall as a result. So it's just so much pressure found in the right lanes at the right time with Infernal Drake spawning in 10 seconds.
And you just see Praelis take half of his health from one auto attack from Ray. So they need to be able to defend this turret. They're not recalling Human. So bottom lane is going to be cracked open. Do they give the inhibitor as well? Do not like this call. 20 minutes into the game. That's the Baron inhibitor taken, Skimmy, and no fight being put up whatsoever from the Gravitas lineup. That is just very clean-cut League of Legends from Legacy, but they are not being pushed or tested at all.
They just get so much value out of that one push. Kill aside the fact that Pabu was zoned away from the turret. Now they can back off and pick up an Infernal Drake. Not only do they have lane pressure on bottom side, they have the vision to control if they want to go for the Baron, and now they have the ever-looming threat of a Dragon Soul. Gravitas buying time, but time is not a commodity they can afford to wait for.
Well, they just don't have any money to buy anything. Like, how are you buying time at this? You're sacrificing things for time, you know? They've put their house on, they've flipped it over. If you're playing Monopoly, they've flipped over all their houses. No, if you land on it, you don't have to give them any money anymore. They've got the bank knocking on their door every single day saying, mate, come on, you've got to be able to pay off this car. We're just not giving it to you for free. But unfortunately, they can't make those repayments. The only thing they still have is gas and electricity, not yet turned off in the Gravitas house. So we'll see whether they're going to be able to use the bare necessities in life to be able to come back into this game.
Well, it's going to force Praelis to flash on out. That's beautiful. He dodges out the Bard right there. He's going to have a lot of mobility to run himself away, but just taking so much damage right now. He turns around. He realizes that he is in a spot of bother. He's going to fall on down, and that is the worst case scenario. No jungle, no smite, no ability to stop this Baron. And if it was bad before, it is disastrous now.
Yeah, this is very ugly League of Legends coming across from Gravitas. One of the teams that we're hoping would be able to make a run to be able to make the gauntlet, Skimmy. We've already seen one of the teams that they were competing against, Innovant Gaming, fall down. There were big hopes for Gravitas. Pabu, however, might have to burn Flash to get out of here.
He may indeed. The binding will not connect as a Flash is used to dodge out that connection. Another turret will fall on down. And things don't really get better here for Gravitas on their road to the gauntlet. They play Legacy today, and they have Pentanet and, they have Avant tomorrow, and then they have Chiefs again tomorrow. So their run towards it doesn't get much easier than this.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't. I mean, you have to think that the Avant game should be a win, but after this performance, not inspiring confidence. They need to put up a last stand right now. You know what? Forget about the games they're going to play tomorrow. They've got one right now. See whether they can actually get something rolling. But my goodness, Raze.
He's hitting those points. You know, 2 items completed right now with the Runas and the Infinity Edge. He just does so much damage. Double inhibitor's gone. They're working towards the third. They want super supers. They've got everything. And Gravitas, like a sick dog, almost rolled over.
Yeah, I mean, but he's not even that far ahead. You look at what he's doing. He's CSing at, 9 a minute. That's good. He's got himself 2 items. That's good. But so does Puma. But Puma just is not doing what Aphelios does because Puma isn't Aphelios. The champion is just outrageous when it has those chakrams out, especially with the sniper rifle or the lifesteal daggers. And you can just see that Legacy rotate around Summoner's Rift. They're going to take all the inhibitors. Double super creeps going to be spawning. 2 minutes now until that final Fire Drake going to be up and available for the Soul. But I don't even know whether we're going to make it that far because the scaling is still items away, Skinny.
I mean, at this stage, as you say, absolutely. I feel like you've got so much pressure on the map that you even need the Infernal Soul to complete that one out. You can literally find a team fight and force the game at, what, 25 minutes in. We're sitting at 23 to say the least, but, you know, 2 minutes until that Drake spawns. Whether or not Legacy have the discipline, if they're still working towards any crucial items. You can see here Tally working towards that Morello's. The BF sword now completed here for Raze, but we'll be looking for extra gold to make that a second item in the Bloodthirster as well. But with the Baron buff still available, you'd imagine they just want to try and push these waves in and just keep Gravitas stuck on lockdown.
Teleport coming in, however, they're looking for Raze.
They are indeed, but Raze is going to burn double summoners to get himself out of that situation. K-Pop jumps in very aggressively, and the Cosmic Radiance goes off onto just himself as he gets stunned on down, flashes away, but it means absolutely nothing. Tapoon jumping on in because he's mega. He's going to find that second kill. The rock goes sideways, but the kill goes down. Simon doing whatever he can to try and find at least one kill to add to that scoreboard, and he just cannot find it. The Magical Journey comes out, but the damage to follow is much stronger at this stage of the game. Pabu's going to slam dunk in. Oh, that many members around him will find one, and it is a big one in Raze, but the Nexus is falling so damn fast, flooded by minions. That's how this game will end. Legacy win in 24 minutes.
Yeah, they certainly do, and that was just an absolute shellacking, Skimmy. Under 25 minutes in gameplay time. We said the scaling was there for Gravitas, but that's a gauntlet thrown. Legacy show that they do not care about scaling, that they are good enough to take care of business, that you can't just give them the first 6 objectives of the game, because they will make you pay for it, and they absolutely made Gravitas pay.
What a complete difference from that Week 6 performance where those members got online. There was obviously respect in the draft to say, we can't allow you to have the Akali, but sure, we don't really care about your Echo playlist, play it. But the fact is, they just weren't able to get the ball rolling. And I feel like the mid lane, yes, you got the Cassidy, but you're playing against Legacy's draft, right? Their identity, that they tried to bring it to them, and Legacy said, why are you copy-pasting our style? We're never going to let that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like this is kind of the second time that we've seen teams try and copy the style of top 2 teams while you've been playing them, right? People have been throwing team fight after team fight at the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have been dealing with it quite handily. Well, this time, the team tries to throw scaling at Legacy, and it also doesn't work out. I think that at this stage of the season, you really have to be sticking at your style. You know, seeing what makes it work for Gravitas, a little bit more chaos, a little bit of that top lane jungle synergy certainly would have been useful this time around. However, Legacy just say no, and they punish it.
Well, Legacy find an important victory to keep themselves in a top spot for that seeding. Gravitas have a much tougher run now to get themselves into that 5th and final spot. That does it for game number 2. We're going to jump to a quick break, and when we return, it's the 3rd game of Week 10.